The ambitious new goal that I announced in Beijing will double the pace at which America reduces its carbon pollution while growing our economy and creating jobs, strengthening our energy security, and putting us on the path to a low-carbon future.
U.S. President Barack Obama talking about the new climate deal he signed with China. You knew that when that deal happened, some, like say Justin Trudeau, would be calling for Canada to follow suit. And of course Trudeau did. In a tweet he said, U.S. and China announced bold action on climate change at PM Harper. It is time that Canada did too. Obama also pledged, by the way, $3 billion to support the United Nations Green Climate Fund. It appears Canada is following that move, and yesterday Prime Minister Stephen Harper announced that Ottawa will also make a donation to the fund. Tom Harris is with the International Climate Science Coalition. He joins me in Ottawa. Tom, you're not a fan of either of these deals. Let's start with the U.S.-China deal, though, because this is still being talked about as if it is some great movement to get the world's biggest emitter, which I believe China became the world's biggest emitter a little while ago, to get them on board, and they're going to curb their greenhouse gases in 16 years.
Yeah, I know.
They'll stop peaking in 16 years.
They're incredible negotiators. I mean, think about it. They're saying the U.S. is going to have a 26% reduction starting now, going right up to the late 2020s. Oh, and China doesn't have to reduce anything. In fact, they don't ever have to reduce anything. All they have to do is cap it at 2030. So they can expand. They're going to be like half the world's emissions by then.
So, well, we were talking about this in the office. If I was China, and you know that there'll be pressure on them to reduce emissions after that point, so just ramp it up in 2025 to 2030, and then the next year you can cut it by 30% and take it down to last year's levels.
It's incredible.
It's a bizarre deal.
I know, and it's setting an example for the rest of the developing world. You can trick the U.S. You know, promise to cap your emissions, not limit them or reduce them, but just stop growing in, let's see, 16 years. Hey, that's pretty good. By then, whoever's in charge will be out of power. People will probably forgotten. We might be into global cooling. The whole world may forget the whole issue.
Yeah, so these are some of the projections out there. I mean, Canada's the red line along the bottom. You know, we are, what, less than 2% of the world's emissions. China ramping way up. The U.S. is already on the way down. Part of that, though, is due to their faltering economy.
Yes, exactly. And also their switch to fracking, which, of course, the Greens hate as well. And so indeed, you know, the United States should be congratulated for doing whatever they have done, not given further cuts. And, you know, the whole point is that this is based on a myth. This is based on the idea that we humans are the master controller of the climate. And the Chinese, I'm sure, are laughing because even their Chinese Academy of Sciences have shown that a lot of this is just nonsense. I don't think the Chinese buy it at all. But they figure, well, if you Americans want to cripple yourself, and Canada, you'll probably follow suit.
And then we'll ship more manufacturing to them.
And for 16 years, we can just do whatever we want. You know, they probably look on this as a great deal. But, you know, you really have to remember that the basis of all of this is something called the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. And can I just read you one sentence from the document so people understand what the $3 billion fund is from, what these kinds of deals are from. They're all based on fulfilling this objective from the Framework Convention on Climate Change. It says, the ultimate objective of this convention is to achieve stabilization of greenhouse gas concentrations in the atmosphere at a level that would prevent dangerous human-caused interference with the climate system. Well, we don't even have measurable human-caused interference with the climate system. Dangerous? We're a very long way from that. So the whole point of these kinds of treaties, these agreements, actually makes no sense at all. We may very well be headed for cooling.
It does make sense if you follow the money, and that's where Canada's contribution comes in. The Prime Minister making this statement on the weekend on this. He says, we've always contributed to these international climate financing initiatives and will announce our own contributions to it in the not-too-distant future. So that's in relation to what, Obama's $3 billion?
Yeah, the Green Climate Fund.
We have been contributing a lot to this. I have quizzed politicians on it, along with a lot of other reporters who still end up saying the Conservatives do nothing. You were telling me they have long done more than the Liberals ever did on these things.
Yeah, they're actually putting more money into this, more programs into this every couple of weeks. You see an announcement from Environment Canada or Natural Resources Canada. This money was given to this community or to this native group to stop climate change, you know. So they actually are doing a great deal. But they get a lot more flack from the left-wing groups simply because they are conservative. I think they could do anything and they'd still get the flack. But, you know, the developing countries are making a very big gamble here. they're playing the guilt card. They're saying, well, you caused our climate problems, our extreme weather problems, so you have to pay up. Well, the real gamble that the developing countries are paying is simply this. How do you know that the funding is going to be new funding? They're probably just going to take money from foreign affairs, they're going to relabel it as the Green Climate Fund, and it's going to be supposedly to stop climate change. But what happens when the scare falls apart? Will the money go back to foreign affairs, or will governments say, oh my God, we were tricked on this is a hoax, and that money could very well evaporate. So if I were in the developing countries, I would be concerned about using the guilt card. People don't like that either. I mean, look at India. The tsunami, they got massive support, most of it from the private sector, and it was pure humanitarian aid. Okay, so people can be very generous when the legitimate needs are laid out.
But not with guilt.
Not guilt.
All right. Tom Harris, thanks so much. As they say over at Small Dead Animals, pleasing your enemies doesn't turn them into friends. You've got to remember that as we pay into these climate funds. Share your thoughts, facebook.com/Brian Lilly. Stick around, more to come.